This is K-Rockcast, the podcast where music and perspectives collide.
I'm Anne, a music lover who's the ultimate fan.
And I'm Kelly, a professional musician. Join us as we dive into the world of the Rose and other Korean and Asian rock bands.
Sometimes we'll agree, sometimes we'll wildly disagree. But what's guaranteed is a passionate and hilarious, unfiltered conversation about the music that unites us and the bands that inspire us. All right, Kelly, here we are, our inaugural episode for K-Rockcast. I'm so excited. How are you feeling today?
Slightly scared.
Me too. Me too, I will admit.
You're looking at me as some voice of authority. I don't know what you're expecting.
You are the voice of authority. You are. I'm so excited for this. I was thinking before we jump in, maybe we tell our listeners how this came about.
It sounds like a good idea. It's a slightly scary idea, but yeah, it does sound like a good idea.
Okay, so Kelly and I are both fans of the Korean rock band The Rose, and we both happen to join their fan app called the Rosarium or the Rosarium. I feel like I'm going to say it both ways. It's my accent, I guess. I don't know.
You've
But
got to say it both ways.
yeah, the
They say it
Rosarium.
both ways. Is it the Rosarium or the Rosarium or whatever the hell they decide it's gonna
Whatever
be on
the
the
hell
day?
it is.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a
yeah.
great app. If you're fans of The Rose and you're not on there, you totally have to join. It's only $3 a month and you can meet amazing Black Roses like Kelly. We just kind of met through there. Both happened to be going out to Woosung's Before We Die show in LA with some other Black Roses. Shout out to Eva, shout out to Irina, shout out to Monica. Hopefully you're listening. We all met out there to go to the concert. And I think Kelly and I just kind of hit it off. We had some great conversations about music. Coming back from that, we all started a group chat. And, it was one of those days where I didn't really want to go to my day job. And I think I randomly said in our group chat how I wish I had a job where all I could do was talk about the Rose because I love to do that all day. And it was like, ha, yeah. And then I get this DM from Kelly. Kelly, what did the
What?
DM say?
I mean, I think I said, "Shall we do a podcast? Because I'm game if you are."
You said, I'm game if you are. Kelly,
It gets me into so much
there are
trouble.
times in your life when you're faced with a fork in the path. I could say, no, I was just kidding, and go about my ordinary life. Or I could say, maybe, yeah, like, are you? And then here we are. So this is what I chose.
This joke's gone too far, hasn't it?
It will all be your fault if we crash and burn in this podcast.
Yeah, great. Thanks for that. I really
Yeah.
needed that. Tarts.
I'm just kidding. I'm excited for this adventure. I can't believe we're here. We're doing this, our first episode, but here we are. I loved our conversations because I learned so much just from your background in music. I don't know what I'm going to bring to the table in this conversation other than I love music. I'm passionate about music. And for the better, the worse for the Rose, I love them. And so I can talk about their music for hours. And so I'm excited to learn a lot from you about their music and for our listeners to learn too. I hope that this will be a fun journey for them. We're going to do kind of a format where we're going to start with news. We'll certainly talk about the Rose, but I think this is a great opportunity that we're going to talk about other Korean rock bands, other Asian rock bands, just kind of talking about what's going on in the Korean rock music industry. It's really hot right now, so we're excited for that.
It's really exciting at the moment. And there's
Yeah.
lots of different types of bands. So if you dig into it, it's not just the nice indie rock bands that we're expecting. There are other really, really great bands out there that play so many different types of music. So it doesn't really matter what type of rock you're into, you've got something that's covered.
Yeah. And then we're going to always do a deep dive. We're going to work our way through the discography of the Rose. We know that things are bubbling and new things are coming out from the Rose. So we'll take a break and definitely talk about the relevant things. But over time, we're going to be able to dive into other bands. Fingers crossed, maybe we can even have a deep dive segment where we've got some interviews, people willing to come on the podcast and talk to us about the music. And then we're going to wrap up every time with a humor segment. So today's segment is going to be a fun Would You Rather. So we can't wait to hear from all of you. So let's kick it off with news. We're going to start beyond the rose. We're going to start kind of in the Korean industry of Day 6. For those of you that might not be familiar with Day 6, they're a Korean pop rock band. They're managed by JYP. And I guess I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about Day 6. So when I kind of researched them, I found out they were managed by JYP. I mean, JYP is one of the juggernauts in the K-pop music management industry. So having JYP behind them, it's not a surprise that they've had the level of success that they've had. This last year, 2024, was a tremendous year for them. They had a comeback in March. So a lot of their members were coming back from the Korea's mandatory military service. And in September, they had a mini album released called Band-Aid, and their title track, Meltdown, it reached number 1 on the Melon Top 100 charts. This was the first time for them. And really coming out of that there at the end of 2024, they were the first K-pop rock band to perform a solo concert at Seoul's historic Gocheok Sky Dome. They did 2 nights, which they sold out both of them. So the total attendance, based on the size of this venue, was over 38,000. This is huge, Kelly. What do you think this really means for just Korean rock music?
Day 6 have been going for a while, and they're a fantastic, fantastic band. And to see them climb up the level, obviously they're sort of what I call entrance level rock. They've got those beautiful pop undertones, which make it slightly acceptable for everybody to listen to. This it's great, that type of stuff. But it definitely means that there is a taste for other things happening. And as I've said to you before in the past, I always find when it comes to rock music, when the world's a little bit unsettled, you tend to find rock rears its head. So we had this in the 80s with everything with Russia and all of the nightmares that were involved there. And it's just like literally we had an explosion of hair metal and thrash and literally everything you could think of. I think obviously we're currently in a similar state. We don't really know where the world is. There's a lot of upset. There's a lot of things people just don't understand how and why they're happening. And this is when rock music tends to come to the fore because it generally, yes, there's things about everyday experiences of life, but normally there is a message behind everything.
Mm.
It's not just the simplicity of pop. There is always a story behind it. And I think that's what's happening, especially if you've seen what's happening in Korea recently anyway. I mean, you can't miss it in the news. Music moves in circles anyway. It always does. It always sort of has like a 10, 15-year life. And it's like, I'm bored of that now. Let's try something new. And yeah, so it's nice to see it coming out. And my
Mhm.
God, some of this music is amazing.
Yeah, I love what you said about the message in rock music. I think for me, that's always what attracts me to music in general. Like I love pop music and so much of just regular pop music or K-pop music in generalities can be lacking a message. It's just fun. It's just easy to listen to, not too deep in terms of the lyrics or the production value. And there's a place for that. I love that. But then there's also music that just really grabs you and does have a message behind it and has more depth to it. Yeah, times of turmoil and unrest and chaos, you kind of lean into that. I feel like during the COVID time, that was a time when people leaned into music to get them through, to give them that comfort and seek something through it.
The arts
Yeah.
came to the fore,
Oh,
literally, the
yeah.
arts did come to the fore. I mean, in the UK, there was a lot of artists that people never heard of, and actually they were still creating in the bedrooms, so they managed to push out all of that. And now some of these artists that were working during COVID are huge. They're really big, and it's fantastic to see. But we also had an explosion, weirdly enough, of like theatre as well. So like
Mm.
the National Theatre, they started broadcasting on YouTube, and like everybody on a Thursday night was like, "Okay, so what's the latest Shakespearean play?" I'd never thought I'd hear people saying that in my life, and it's like, "Okay, we're all going to sit down and watch Richard III." It's
Yeah.
mad. It
Yeah.
was mad. But yeah, no, it's great. And you can see how things happen and just how things move. But yeah, we could talk about this for
Yeah.
ages, but
And I feel like one to me, I look at day 6 and I think the fact that they sold out 2 nights, over 38,000 total fans, that is a huge win. They're
it's
in Korea.
insanity.
Yeah, and a win for one group is a win for all, right? So
Definitely.
it's only gonna open the doors more for other rock bands like The Rose or some other up and coming, rock bands there in Korea, which is great. So,
Yeah,
kudos to
once
day 6.
yeah, once you've opened the floodgates, that's it. Everybody can start walking through.
All right, so let's talk about the Rose next. So, first thing, we are recording this on January 4th, but by the time all of you, our listeners, hear this podcast, Woosung's 4444 Reborn, the remix album, will have already been released. He's releasing that on January 9th. This is a remix of a group of his tracks from his album that he released on October 4th, 4444. I'm so excited about this. I mean, most of these tracks were EDM anyway, but now these are other remix EDM, even more EDM or a different version of them. Kelly, what are your tracks in particular that you're looking forward to?
Well, I mean, I've got favourites off of the original album anyway.
Yeah.
So for me, Never Let Go, yeah, that definitely always hits a chord. I absolutely love that. And the fact that AJ's doing that, it's quite interesting. So I want to see where that one goes.
Yeah, so AJ, for the listeners, if you're not familiar, is Woosung's little brother. He is venturing into being a DJ now, which good for him. Way to go, AJ. I'm excited for this too. I mean, Woosung, the spoiler king, played on a live. He had AJ play a version of Phase Me, which was a song that Woosung had on his Moth album. And that EDM remix was fire. I was like,
it,
AJ, what?
I was quite impressed. So, I mean, my background, yes, rock musician, first and foremost. But yes, I have ventured into the deep dark world of EDM quite frequently. And I used to work for a music promoter as well. So a lot of that involved things like drum and bass. And so I know my schnizzle. And yeah, it was quite good. I was
It was
impressed.
okay. Can I insert this though and say I feel like a huge missed opportunity was at the LA show. AJ lives there. That's Woosung's hometown. Why did AJ not come out and do one? He should have done the Phase Me remix that he was working on for Woosung, and he could have done like a little guest spot, little mini like DJ session. What was that?
To be perfectly honest, doing a DJ set is really hard work.
What? All
Really,
I'm asking is
really
one
hard
song,
work.
AJ. One.
Just wheel him out, let him do one track, push him back off stage.
Hey, when he was 11, he came out and sang Candy.
Okay, yeah,
It's
fair
on
enough. He
YouTube.
did. He did.
To
This is
his
true.
detriment, everybody can find that. I know he wishes it would be removed, but come
It's so
on.
sweet.
Come
It's so
on.
sweet.
I was like, I predicted it. I was like, he's coming. AJ's gonna be there. He'll do that song. No, nothing. Woosung, that was a
Yeah.
lost opportunity if you're listening. Just
To
saying.
be to be perfectly honest, I for one, the time frame of the entire 4444 album was insanity.
Oh, you mean
To
in how long he put it
oh my
together? How short of a time
honestly,
he put it together?
seriously, write an album, record an album, mix it, master it,
Yeah.
do promotion, get everything ready, organize a tour. No,
Yeah.
seriously, no,
He's
that
a
was
he's
pure.
a workaholic. He works hard. Yeah.
And we wonder
Yeah.
why his staff look stressed.
Yeah, I wonder why
I
Clara is,
wonder
like,
why.
hanging on by a thread, bless her heart.
Literally having a nervous breakdown of what he's going to say next.
What other tracks besides AJ's are you looking forward to?
Oh, Radio Garson. I absolutely loved him at LA. So he was the first DJ on at the LA show at the Shrine, and I thought he was brilliant. I think a few people didn't quite get what he was doing because it wasn't crowd pleaser music that he was mixing
Mhm.
in. He was live mixing. I
Mm.
stood there and I was like, "Oh my God, he's doing this live!" And I turned around to the arena that was stood next to me. I was like, "This is so good. This is what it should be." And she was like, "Okay." I literally felt like, "Am I in? What is this? I know I'm from Europe and we're used to this, but this is what it should be." I'm so excited to hear what he's actually doing
Mm.
because that's just gonna be amazing.
I'm all about the DJ Raiden remix of "Let There Be Light." He did Woosung did do that in the LA show. The crowd went crazy. When that
Ye
came on, the crowd went crazy. His energy was so high at that point, like, it was almost at the end of his show. I loved that. I was impressed with DJ Raiden. He DJ'd, um the night before, as well, after the Wolf Pack,
mm.
feast, dinner there at the Inner Crew restaurant in LA, and he was tremendous there. I mean, personally, I loved his slip in his set. So he did a 30-minute set before Dojun's set at the LA show, and he played a remix of Red, which was amazing.
Yeah, you see, now that's the thing with me. Yeah, he's a damn good DJ. His transitions and everything are
Yeah.
fantastic. I can't fault him. But he picks crowd pleasers. So when you pick a crowd pleasing song and you remix it, you're gonna get an audience reaction. When you're a
Yeah.
DJ that goes in and you play something cold that nobody knows, wow, you've got balls to do that. And
Yeah.
that's why
Well
I really, really, really liked Radio Garçon.
Well, there's our differences. See, you can
There we go.
appreciate and I'm a fan. I'm like, "Give me Red." Like, "Oh my god,
I
that's my
just want to hear.
anthem."
I mean, don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed it. I really, really, really enjoyed it. But no, just Radio Garçon just tipped it for me because it was just like, oh.
Well,
However, so there was another DJ playing that night. There was another DJ playing that night, and he did crowd pleasers, and he did really, really well. And his transitions were French kiss. They were
mhm,
beautiful. I said French kiss then. I meant chef's kiss.
chef's kiss. I mean,
Yeah.
it could be
Okay.
French kiss too. They must be
Hey,
really
hey,
good.
hey. It was really, really, really good. Yeah, so yeah, DJ Par Classic was exceptional. So I think kudos to him and whoever decided he was going out on tour with
Do you
Rusung because
I wanna know how this came about. Like,
I think
seriously, like
I think it was a drunk night.
I think it was too. I think it was one of those and knowing those 2, there was probably no real, like, long-term plan of that.
No.
"You know what would be fucking awesome? If you came out and you were the DJ."
Are we saying that they basically work on the seat of their pants? Is this what it
Yes.
is?
Yes. Yes, I totally imagine that. Yes.
Yeah, it will be, no doubt. It will
It
literally.
made it so much more special, I feel like, and their
Yeah, it did.
interactions, they had the best time, they had so much fun. Yeah, it was great. I think my last track that I'm excited about is Ion. So he's doing a remix of Forget
Yes.
Forever. So at the New York show for Before We Die tour, he was the intro DJ before Park Classic, and he was really good. I didn't know anything about him, hadn't heard of him before, but his set was excellent. So I'm looking forward to this Forget Forever remix. I'm so curious what he's gonna do, right? That's such a unique song in its own right. It's such a slow burn song. So is he just going to completely turn it around and it's gonna be like more of an upbeat, or I'm just so curious what he's gonna do with it.
I mean, it could be anything, to be honest, because dance music, I mean, we've always had this sort of idea of like 90s dance. So we're talking like traditional rave, house, that type of thing, which is like a set beat per minute. And it's like, doof, 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 doof. And if it's not that, it's not dance. However, these days, dance incorporates a lot more things. The actual BPM slow down a lot. So he might actually just want to include lots of electronics, deeper bass grooves, and it drops, things like that. So yeah, it might just be one of those nice sort of soothing sounds that you get. Like Rufus Du Sol, they're a dance band, but they're not a heavy dance band. They're not
Mhm.
the traditional dance band that you think of. So yeah, it's interesting. But I mean, he is a producer. Ion is a producer. It is what he does for a living. It'll be
Yeah,
interesting to see where he goes.
it's gonna be very interesting. Well, we think the next episode, since this remix album will be out, we're probably gonna do our deep dive into it. So excited to talk more as we hear all these tracks in our next episode. Okay, now we got a preview because, the air is just tingling, Kelly, tingling
Mhm.
with the Roses comeback. We know they're coming back in late February, but knowing them probably into March, because it's probably going to stretch a little bit, we keep getting little bits and pieces of some hints. So we kind of wanted to talk through some of those. So, first, on
Are
the
you
Rosarium app,
are you are
there
you are
is
you are you saying they do hints? They drop hints?
they love the little breadcrumbs.
Little tiny spoilers left, right, and center.
Well, Wusong does big spoilers,
Yeah,
but
he does. This is true.
he has been held down, so
I
we're
think
getting little
he's had
spoilers.
he's had his leg slapped, hasn't he? Something's happened and somebody's told him off big time. He's sat on his
Yeah.
hands.
You know what? Watch out if that man comes on live because we're getting everything. Hajun was tight-lipped on his
Oh
live
yeah.
today. He gave us a spoiler before, but put Wusong on there. He'll spill the beans. That man
Yeah.
loves to
Help
talk,
it.
which I'm a fan. I hate people who are like, I don't want to know. No, I want to know. Give me it all. I am for the spoilers. I love it. I don't want to be surprised. No, I want to know. I want to know.
A
But
little
something big is coming, Kelly, because on the Rose Couch, which is kind of like a video podcast sort of series they have on Rosarium, the last episode they just aired gave us this. There was an interesting choice of words. They said, quote, something to brag about is coming. What is your take on those words? I think that's an interesting way to say it.
it could be 101 different things, to be perfectly honest. I mean, part of me wonders whether it is potential for expansion is
Mm,
in how they distribute it.
mm,
It could be something in the sense of how they've pushed the media to represent the album, because we know there's been a lot of recording done, but
yeah,
none of this has actually seen fruition yet.
right.
Um, so yeah, there's lots of little things, or it might be the fact that they've managed to secure a um a guest spot on there. As
Oh.
I did wonder if they've got a very large guest
You
on
know,
there.
that's actually a really good hot take because Wusong even mentioned this special thing during one of his Q&As. I don't remember the venue it was during his solo tour, but when he talked about it, he talked about having an NDA and he couldn't really say anything. So maybe it is some really high profile guest featured artist. Is that kind of what you're thinking? Like
That's
somebody
that.
big?
Well, I mean, they always have a guest artist,
Yeah.
always, and I'm just wondering whether or not somebody might be returning the favor.
Yeah. I don't know, whatever it is, I'm super excited about it. In terms of the album, like I said, we think that they're going to have their comeback in late February. We know, okay, here's the things we know. They always go with 4 letters, so it's going to be a 4-letter word. They spoiled back in August on their 7th anniversary live. It's going to begin with R. And then Hajun on his December 24th live gave us a huge spoiler. He said it was inspired by nostalgia. So we put our feelers out to other Black Roses on Instagram and Rosarium what they all thought, people's predictions. So some of the names, I think there's some good ones that came through. Rise, Retro, Rose, Root, which would be ROOT, Root. What's your hot take, Kelly? What do you think the name could be?
Mine was Root.
Yeah.
Mine was definitely Root.
Yeah.
Because obviously the root of the sound, it ties into roses and all of those type of things. Or they could just be bullshitting us. You do know that, don't you?
I do know that, and they are definitely They definitely like to do that as well. I think, the most I saw of the Black Roses guesses was the word rose, which I thought was
Yeah,
interesting.
it's a bit of a flat one. I mean, I can't see them doing a self-titled album.
Yeah, I don't either. My guess before I heard nostalgia was rise, because I
Yeah,
felt like where
yeah.
they are in their career, 2023 and 2024 were huge years for them. I feel like they have gained a significant amount of fans in that time.
Mhm.
Um, and they're just like on this like precipice to me of just like really taking off. And so Rise felt like it was natural to me, but then this whole concept of nostalgia, I like your idea of root, like getting
Yeah.
back to their root of their sound.
It's the roots of, to be perfectly honest.
Mhm.
I mean, but I think if you call it root, it sounds a little bit more the rose. You stick a S on the end of it, and it suddenly becomes a heavy metal band.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got Sepultura in my head, which they
Yeah.
definitely are. As Hadgen proved earlier on in his life.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Well, I'm excited. We'll see who was right. We'll see how far off we were. We'll come back and talk about that, I'm sure, in a future episode. I guess the last big update is it has been announced that The Rose is going to play at an upcoming music festival called Rabbit to the Moon. It's a new K-pop music festival happening in Bangkok, Thailand. It's on February 22nd. There's like 5 or 6
yeah,
Korean
there's.
groups. You're teetering on going? Not sure?
I'm on the edge. Well,
You're
let's
on
put it
the
this way.
edge.
I've booked accommodation.
You're halfway there to
I'm half
commitment.
I'm halfway there to commitment.
But they've been very quiet about this. I mean, this is coming up. This is in less than 2 months. They would definitely be needing to get into the studio and be practicing together as a band. I think they're kind of notorious for previewing songs, so, they could preview a song at this set from their new album for sure.
You wouldn't play a festival like that unless you were previewing an actual set of songs. So I would expect there to be one, if not two singles previewed at that.
Yeah, because they did
There's
that with Back
there's
to Me, didn't they?
Yeah, they did
They
that with Back
previewed
to Me.
Back to Me before the official release.
Yeah, and also did they do You're Beautiful as well when they played in Hyde Park? Or
Mm.
am I imagining that?
I don't know, I can't fact check you on that one, but I do know that they previewed Back to Me. That one I'm sure of. So, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
with you. I think whoever the Black Roses are that are going, take fan cams, please. I live off those fan cams. Um,
If I get there, I'll take some footage.
Yeah, take some footage. I can't wait. I'm super excited. All right, so let's get into our deep dive. So our deep dive on this episode is going to be this is Into the Void. So we're going to go into their first song Sorry and then their first mini EP Void. But we thought we'd kind of start with a little overview of the Rose. We recognize some of you listening might be fans already of the Rose and know about them, but maybe some of you aren't, and you're just kind of learning about the Rose. So, a really brief history of who they are. The Rose consists of 4 members. I'm going to name them in order with the leader and in age order, which is traditional in kind of Korean pop music anyway. So the leader is Kim Woo-sung. His English name is Sammy. And so I want to preface that because I feel like we're going to go back and forth, I think, as we talk about them using English names and Korean names. So I want our listeners to kind of know that they really go back and forth even among themselves between their Korean names and their English names very freely. He's the lead singer, plays electric guitar. And then we have Park Do-jun. His English name is Leo. He is a singer, guitar player, keyboard production. I call him a musical genius personally. I feel
He
like
is.
Dojun does everything. He
He
is
is,
such the
honestly.
foundation to me and the heart of the Rose. Then we have Lee Ha-jun. Ha-jun goes by Dylan. He is the drummer and vocals. And I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna put this out there right now. Kelly, part of the reason I think why I wanted to do this podcast, not just to be able to talk about how much I enjoy the Rose's music, but this is now my soapbox to continue to champion, do you know what I'm gonna say? To continue to champion, we need more Hajun vocals.
We do.
Please,
We do. It's
please, the
true.
Rose, if you're listening, somebody out there, this man's voice, he has a beautiful voice. I need him to be singing more lead. I feel like it our listeners can probably start this as a drinking game. As many times as I'm going to probably say in this podcast how much I love his vocals, you can drink every time. So,
They're gonna be absolutely annihilated by the end of
yeah,
this. You do know that, don't you?
they're gonna be drunk by the end. I will not stop singing his praises from the rafters. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And then we'll move on to we'll move on to Jaehyun. Jaehyun goes by Jeff. He is our bass player, guitar player, again vocals. I mean, I'll say to him too, like he has a gorgeous voice. And that's what I love about the Rose. Seriously, all four members, they all can write melodies. They all can sing. They all can write lyrics. They are just extremely talented individuals. And in terms of like how they came together, I kind of like their story. You know, they're in Korea. Sammy is Korean American. He went over after he auditioned on a Korean show called K-Pop Star. He tried out the trainee life, didn't quite work out for him, but he stayed there in Korea. Thank God he didn't, just give up on his dream and go back to the United States. He happened to meet Dojun. This is what I say Dojun's the heart, because in this story, he is like the glue that pulled everybody in this group together. So Sammy and Dojun knew each other through mutual friends. They're like drinking buddies. Hajun and Jaehyun went through training together with a company focused specifically on rock bands, which by the way, didn't know existed. I
Oh,
didn't know
that's
this
I didn't know.
existed.
No, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, this is from if you guys ever have a chance, our listeners, to listen to Woo-sung's Mindset podcast, it is phenomenal. But he talks about kind of their origin story, and he mentions that those two met in that trainee company specific for rock groups, which is kind of cool. I'll have to research that more.
Mhm.
So they've known each other a long time, and they met Dojun through busking. And so the three of them, Dojun, Hajun, and Jaehyun, formed a band called Windfall. And Dojun basically started hounding Sammy. And this is what I love, because I can just imagine these conversations. And it's like Woo-sung says, and he's like, yo, Sammy, I got this band and we need you. And Sammy's like, no, 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 man. Like he wanted to kind of he was trying to get back into music with a solo music artist, and he wasn't trying to be part of a band, but they convinced him to just do a gig. Isn't that how it starts? Do this favor for me, Kelly. Just do this one thing, right? As my friend, and then here you are, right? It's like this is how these stories always evolve and end up. He did that one gig, and they just kind of felt the energy, I think, with the four of them. They have great chemistry, obviously. And they got picked up by a management company. So their first management company was J and Star Company. And they spent the first year. So after they signed, they spent a whole year living together, playing together, writing songs together before they ever debuted a song. And I feel like that really laid a foundation of their sound. It got a chance for them to hone their sound. What, in your opinion, like what does that kind of time that they spend, how does that shape and impact a band?
You have to have that time. If you don't have that time, you're not a band. So when you're talking about pop artists and pop groups, you are put together. Don't get me wrong, they train relentlessly. You have to push complete boundaries to get to where you are. They're training 18 hours a day. And that's not just Korean artists. That is artists across the world. To see the amount of work that goes into that final performance that you see, or that final video, the insanity, the lifelong dedication. However, when it's a band, it's a different thing. You're a family, you're a unit. You need to sit together. You need to sit and talk and just jam and laugh and cry and call each other names and occasionally throw a punch. That does happen. Not saying I've ever done that, but occasionally it does happen. And it develops you as it helps develop your sound as well as the group itself. And you can tell with the guys, you can tell that they've had that time together. They are a band of brothers, for want of a better word. You can see the family dynamics within them, and first and foremost, the friends. Really good, successful bands, generally speaking, are. And that only comes with being in a rehearsal room that is literally big enough for a drum kit and an amp, and then you've got three people stood squeezed in a square centimeter trying to play, and it's the most uncomfortable thing, and it's cold and it's smelly and everybody's fed up. But you know what? As soon as that music starts, oh my god, it's the best thing in the world.
Yeah, I think of that what you just described is how Woo-sung describes it in his Mindset podcast. He played that first chord. I think he said it was an F chord, and it was like it all just came, together.
Y-
Like, I think he felt
You,
that energy among them for sure.
you, when it's right, you get goosebumps.
Yeah.
It's happened to me. I've been in quite a few different bands, but it's happened to me, and for me, that one moment was singing one particular song that we'd got finished, and I stood there and I could feel the tears welling, and I had literally got goose pimples all over me. And I turned and I looked at my guys and I was like, "How was that?" And they were all the same. They'd all got tears in their eyes. I
Oh,
was like, "Yes, this is it." So I
yeah.
get that. I know what he's saying, and I think that frisson is what it's called. So when you get goosebumps when you listen to music, that's called frisson.
Mm.
When you get that, you know it's right, but you don't just feel it there, you feel it in your gut, and
And
I get what he means.
We're going to talk about their debut song, which is called Sorry, here in a moment. And I think it was, thank God they spent the time and really practiced together, wrote more songs because they took off. They took off quick. And
Huge.
had they not had that year of training together, they would have probably failed in this quick, takeoff. They get a tour right away, months after debut, and they could lean on those songs that they wrote. They could lean on all that practice time because they wouldn't have had it, right? They had to get on the road right after debut.
Yeah.
So I think it was so smart that they spent that time. And one of the things I respect about how they work together as a band is it's not about an individual's opinion. It is about a collective band's opinion at the end of the day. To
It
quote
has
Sammy, he loves to say at the end of the day. At the end of the day. There I go. And I respect that so much because I think they've talked about they can get in a lot of fights. It can take them a long time to come to a total agreement on a direction of a song or lyrics that they're picking. But by doing that, you come away, I think, with art that every person in that band can get behind, and I
def
feel like that's so important.
it really is important. You need that democracy. It never works. I think John Bon Jovi said it. Bon Jovi is a democracy, but he's a benevolent dictator.
Mm.
And I think there is always a level of that in the band. So yeah, there is an agreement, but there's always that one person that just goes, right, are we doing this? Right, okay, let's get on with it. So I
I
think
feel like that's probably Dojun. He's probably like,
yeah,
"Okay, let's keep it moving here. Let's get this
yeah,
going."
yeah. I think there is somebody that does have the final like, come on, we can't, let's just get on with this now. But yeah, every band has it, definitely. And successful bands have it. Or it's a case of there's two people that work together really, really, really well, and the rest of them, for want of a better term, are session musicians. And the Rose aren't. They're a collective of four and they work perfectly well as a four.
Here I go. Okay, if listeners, if you did break out that alcohol, time to drink again because Hajun had a live today and he says, he's like, "Wait, hold on. I have this, I think he said like melody in my head. I gotta get this out to Dojun."
Yeah,
And I'm just like, and that to me, that goes back to what, I said at the beginning, what you just said. these 4 talented musicians, it's not just that he's the drummer and that's all he brings to the table. Like, they're all so talented and they all contribute. Just I think that's some of why I just really love them. So Sorry, let's talk about Sorry, because speaking of Hajun, Woo-sung says in his mindset, Hajun came up with the melody for Sorry.
You'd be surprised actually how frequently it isn't the person you think it is that came out with the melody, that came out with the initial idea for a track. You will be sat in a rehearsal room and somebody will just noodle something, whether it's on a guitar or a piano, or they'll just hum something and it's like, hold on a minute, what is that? That's the most amazing sound I've ever heard. And then everybody latches onto it. But I think Hajan actually went into this and it was like he'd probably got more of a formed idea in his head that he presented. And it's a beautiful track. And the balls to put a ballad out as your first single, kudos is all I'm saying on
So
that
why do
one.
you think that's a risky thing to do? What's your take on that?
Well, normally the thing that any record label will tell you to do is put something out that's high beat, that's got energy, that people want to sort of dance to, that they automatically have a connection with. When you bring a ballad out, it will work in one of two ways. Either you will click onto people's emotional level and they'll see the humanity in it. And sometimes it can push you more towards another market. So I think as a male band in Korea, I think their record label, well, they would have at the time gone, do you know what? I think we need to go with something a bit more upbeat. Probably, I don't know whether Red was written at this point, but that would have been the preference I would have thought from the label because it's more upbeat. It's a unisex song. So you release a ballad, generally speaking, what happens is the female listeners will click to it quicker. Don't get me
Oh.
wrong, the men will listen too, but they won't admit it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that because Wusong did share in his mindset that their management company wasn't too optimistic. But all the members of the Rose really believed in this song. It seems like it came together really easily for them. He says that Hajun kind of came to him. He had this melody in his head. And for whatever reason, Wusong's just like, I've got this idea around a concept of being sorry. And he says he wrote the rest of the melody and lyrics in like 20 minutes.
This is what happens. When you write songs, tends to fall into like three categories. You've got the one song that you will labour over, and you've been working on it for 3 years, and eventually one day you crack it and you're like, oh my God, it's done. And you can get rid of it. You get the one idea where everybody comes together and you work on it, and it takes an amount of time and you have to mold it, but it gets there and everybody's happy and you sort of work together with it. And then you get the other ones which are almost like you get a divine download. This thing comes to you from nowhere. You don't know where it comes from. It literally lands in your head, but it's not just you, it's the people you share it with. And then you pass it on to them, and they get this sudden spark of inspiration. And it's like, oh my God, what the hell is this? I've had this happen to me as well. I got woken up at like 1 o'clock in the morning with a message from, weirdly enough, my drummer going, I've written this song. What do you think? And bleary eyed, I opened up my phone, sat there listening to it, and then sat bolt upright, put the light on, wrote the lyrics in 15 minutes, sent it back to him, and went, when do we record this?
I love that. It's like the same kind of story. Shout out to the
Mhm.
drummers, man. They're not
The,
just it's not just banging on those drums.
oh
There's
God, they are a very, very underrated member of any band. Really, really
ah,
are.
and this song, like we said, thank God that they all believed in it and were able to at least, I guess, convince their management company that this should be their song to debut because it took off. A little statistics, Billboard ranked Sorry in 2017. So it was released on August 3rd, 2017. I have to say this, August 3rd is my birthday. Their debut date is my birthday, and when I first learned that, I felt like it was, like, meant to be. Billboard ranked it as number 7 on the top 20 K-pop songs that year. For those of you that maybe aren't as familiar with K-pop, I just want to kind of set the tone on who the juggernauts were in K-pop in 2017 that the Rose was competing with. So, EXO has been on hiatus for a little while with their members in the military, but in 2017, EXO was massive. They were huge in the K-pop market then. BTS, I'm a huge BTS fan, so I'll be transparent. I am ARMY. And they came in 2017 with Spring Day, which has been one of their biggest hits of all time. Spring Day was massive. And BTS in 2017 was kind of on this roller coaster. They were at the cusp of the peak in Korea, at least, of their level of fame. So competing with, with those groups, it was massive. So to be ranked number 7 in their debut song, I think that is pretty big. In January of 2018, so right after that, Billboard named the Rose one of the top 5 Korean breakout artists to watch that year. So Billboard recognized, I think, the potential that the Rose had from the start. And then also in January 2018, Sumpy announced that the Rose was one of the nominees for Rookie of the Year for their 13th annual Sumpy Awards. I think this song, like you said, it was a risk, but wow, it really paid off because right after debut, they got picked up for a tour, for an international tour. And at that time, I guess the song was different enough in Korea that they really didn't get the level of Korean fans listening, but they got international fans listening.
Yeah.
What do you think the reason for that was?
Think because they have and will fully admit when they first started out, it was very much a Brit rock sound. They
Yeah.
form a lot of what they do off of the British indie sound, which is obviously one I'm very familiar with. There is a definite take on what they did, and I think European markets were like, "Oh, I know this, but it's
Mm.
slightly different because of X, Y, and Z," and they picked up on it. Whereas the Korean market at the time was very much stuck in K-pop,
Yeah.
heavy K-pop territory. We'd got huge, huge hitters that had been happening a couple of years previously, and they'd formed the foundation of the entire market. So for it to then be a rock band coming out, regardless of how good they are, how talented they are, the brilliance of the songwriting, the structure of it, absolutely everything that you could wax lyrical about that track. It's a damn good track, but it was probably a step too far for Korea.
Yeah, at the time, it probably was. I love what you're saying about the familiarity, I think, for the European audience, and I think probably for the American audience, as well too, in terms of just that kind of, like, pop rock,
Well, we
sound.
do like to export
Mm,
our musicians. I can't remember correctly, but I think it's something like it's our biggest export. British music is the
mm.
biggest export worldwide. Yeah, I know, fair enough. We send out some lovely cars and some great whiskey, but the music is what we literally send
I don't
everywhere.
know, if you talk to my mother, it's BritBox and Acorn, so it's gonna be your dramas, but I'll give you the music.
Hey, hey, we do petticoats and bodice ripping really, really well.
Alright, do you wanna go into the song kinda give us the, breakdown of songwriter, composer? Do you wanna kinda go
Yeah,
through all that with
exactly.
us?
So it's to be perfectly honest, when we started looking into this, we were quite surprised. So obviously the songwriters, the composers, the arrangement, that all fits under the Rose. They did all of that. That is all theirs. It relates directly all to them. However, when we've looked into it, there are actually other musicians that have helped out with the recording of this. So there have been session musicians involved with it, and this is for the entire track. So, I mean, the guys would have gone into the studio and recorded, but it looks to me, and I'm only kind of guessing, that they probably had session musicians go in afterwards and do a couple of dubs afterwards just to fill the sound out. Um, I can't imagine that they were the writers and then literally the instruments were played by somebody else. I'd be very surprised by that. It was recorded and mixed at Booming Sound Studios, and then the mastering was done at 821 Sound as well. So as a whole, the production on that actual song is amazing. It's brilliant. It's so well done. And it's got a beautiful polish that you don't frequently hear on a lot of rock tracks.
Mm.
So that relates back to K-pop and the fact that K-pop is all about the shine. I mean, it's not just glass skin, there's also the shine
Oh,
on the
yeah.
music as well. Yeah, definitely. It's one of those things where you can really sort of see the depth of understanding of the musicianship as well.
Yeah.
It's not, how do I put it? It's not a complicated song.
Right. Right.
So I mean, it's not, we're not talking jazz fusion or progressive metal or anything like that. There's no insane time signatures or scat jazz vocals or anything like that. Now I've
Mhm.
said that, Sammy will probably disguise at some point he's going to do jazz, you know,
Oh, I would
whatever.
love to hear that.
I don't.
We'll talk about that when we talk
We'll
about four,
talk.
four, four, four.
We'll talk about
We'll
that. We'll
table
talk
that
about that.
discussion.
Let's leave that one there.
We've got
Um,
opinions on that. We know we
we
do.
have opinions.
I like what you're saying though. If I can just like, I love what you're saying about simplicity because if I compare their songs they released on Duel to these songs, so going back and really listening to these songs on Void, you're right. Like the melodies are so much, and the production was kind of more simplistic, but there's just so much there. So I'll admit, as a fan, I don't usually listen to the instrumental. I'm
I
sorry.
made you. I made you.
You made me I'm like, skip over that. Why is that on there? I just had a whole new appreciation for the music. I mean, nothing
It's
against Sammy. I
beautiful.
love your voice, Sammy. If if you're ever listening to this, please, I love your voice. But when all I did was listen to the melody, I like I heard it was like listening to a whole new song.
Mm.
There was instrumentation I'd never really heard before. It was amazing. I loved it.
Well, those instrumental tracks will be on there. So when you record something, what you generally do is you record it, it goes in for mixing, and then during mixing, they will mix everything for you. You will get the track that goes off for mastering, which is what you'll hear, which is the beautiful, shiny, all singing, all dancing version. You'll get stems, which you will hear the band use live. So they'll trigger those.
Mhm.
So they will be triggered, generally speaking, by Dojun and Hajin. They'll both trigger independently. So you'll see that they'll have little sort of, they'll have either key Macs at the side of their actual stations, or they'll actually have trigger pads. So they'll do those. And then you'll also have three other files that generally come with it when you've seen your mixing person. You will have a file which will be a cappella. So there'll be all the vocals, the main vocals, as it's treated. You will also then get the instrumental version, and then you'll also get a sort of movie version. And the movie version, which you will hear at some point when we start discussing the items that they've done for original soundtracks, is the music, but it's also the vocal instrumentation. So the oohs and the ahs and things like that. It just doesn't have the words on it because the words confuse people when they're watching a film. So that's why you've got those three tracks on there. And I'm glad you listened to them because
Yeah, and
I don't
I don't
think
think
they're not given the love that they
their
deserve.
later albums don't have instrumentals, correct? Am I wrong in that?
They don't, but that will probably be to do with the fact that obviously these are mini albums and EPs that they did
Mm.
starting off with. So we're only really looking at like 3 to 5 tracks. When you get onto an album, generally speaking, it's 8 to 11 tracks. Or if you're Guns N' Roses, you do a double album and you end up with 24 tracks on it and absolute stupidity. And it's one of those things where you kind of have to carve a niche for it. If
Mm.
you want to do it, you can put it in there, but it becomes an instrumental track in its own right.
Right, right.
because it's got to earn a place on an album.
I loved that there were instrumental tracks on Void so that I could really kinda dig into the melody, and so, as we talk back and forth about melody, I'm gonna talk in feeling because I am not a professional musician. I don't know all of the technical aspects of creating music. That's where Kelly's gonna come in and breaking the melodies down, but
Oh,
when
thank
I
you.
listen
Thank you for that.
yeah, when I listen to Sorry, I think to me what strikes me is those opening piano chords of how it
Yes,
starts, and it's this melancholy feeling.
it is.
Yeah,
And the re
but then
and the reason that that is so melancholy is because it's in B flat major. That
okay,
is
I
purposely done.
okay, okay.
It's the root of all blues.
Oh, oh,
Well, that's
see?
why you suddenly go, "Oh, totes emotion," and you suddenly get all those emotions kicking immediately because
Yeah,
that is that territory.
but then the drums come in, and then there's this additional, like, piano and guitar, and I feel like as the song progresses, my feeling goes from this initial melancholy to, like, feeling, like, more optimistic
Yeah,
by the end.
yeah.
So does the key change? Did they change keys by the end?
There's all sorts of movements in there, to be perfectly honest. You get key changes. Yeah, there's lots of things in there that move the song and convey the song. But also you'll find different instruments, even though they are playing in the same key, they convey different emotions.
Mm,
So, and also the way they're played as well. So a bass note, even if it's playing the same note as a guitar, has a very different emotive feeling.
yeah, and then I think when you put in Woo-sung's voice, right? And it's particularly at the
Mm.
beginning when he comes in with that line, just when there's kind of less melody happening, like it's more a cappella, his voice just grabs you.
Oh, honestly, his voice on that, it was so well. I don't want to use the word contrived, but it was.
What do you
They
mean by
they
that?
there was such planning involved with
Mm,
that. They may not have thought it at the time. That may just be how it happened. But to literally strip out everything and it just be this one pleading voice, because that's what it is.
yeah.
And it is a pleading voice crying out
Yes.
in the silence,
Yeah,
and
because
that's
then
what hooks you.
it does hook you, and it's so the English translation of the lyrics, because this song is mostly in Korean, I kind of find it been we'll talk about this probably throughout this podcast, they have evolved in their songwriting of their early songs were mostly in Korean with some English lyrics, and now I think most of their songs are English with a
Yeah,
few
they are.
Korean lyrics. So that's probably a whole conversation we could have maybe in a future episode about that evolution in their songwriting. But when you look at the English lyrics, he to me in this song, they're talking to this lover that has left them and how sorry they feel for the pain that they cause. And I think what's interesting all throughout the lyrics is this word, they use the Korean word, but selfish.
Mm.
What's
I've
your
got a
take on that?
yeah, well, my theory on this as a songwriter, as somebody who writes lyrics is I don't think that's a statement of I was selfish. I think that's a repetitive frame of what they'd heard. I think they were told they were selfish.
Mm,
And I think that is where the anguish comes into it. So it is I'm selfish and words are hurtful. Words are weapons.
yeah, right.
And when they are used to such an effect, they stick with you.
Mm,
And it's really clever songwriting because you can
mm,
pick it up from either side. You can go, "Oh, he's feeling selfish, so he's just gonna say, 'I'm selfish, I should have been a better person, da 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 da.'"
mm,
Or it's the refrain of hearing you're being told that you are selfish, and
mm.
that's word sitting and playing in your mind. I personally think it's the latter.
That's interesting because at first I was interpreting before we had this conversation, I was kind of just interpreting it face value of like, okay, they messed up and that, it's because of them that this relationship is over, and they are saying they're being selfish maybe for wanting to continue the relationship when this other person is obviously kind of gone, because then they kind of say in the lyrics that they can't turn back. Like they know it's too late. But I kind of like where your interpretation's a little bit different of, they've been told that they're selfish, and kind of turning that around. I think what's interesting to me is where I said the melody to me gave me this my feeling changed by the end. I felt when I listened to the instrumental, it's like I'm listening to it and it's so melancholy at the start, but then it's more optimistic by the end. But the lyrics don't really move in that direction
Oh
throughout
no.
the whole song. They're very sad.
The
Uh,
lyrics are stuck. They
yeah.
because you tend to find when you write a lyric, you might sort of I suppose it's a bit like writing. You're writing a mini story. You're
Right, right.
writing a mini odyssey.
Yeah.
You start at the beginning, you introduce your character, they go on the journey, and then there's a resolution at the end.
Mhm.
There isn't really a resolution with sorry. It's just literally, I'm sorry, all
Yeah.
the way, all the way through it.
Right.
Uh, which is a weird way to put it, but yeah, it is literally. It's just like, I'm really sorry. But that's the
Yeah.
thing. It's not, and I think the reason I think it's more of a sort of, it's an internal monologue.
Mm.
The actual lyrics are an internal monologue of what is trying to be conveyed. I don't necessarily think it's the conversation of what was
Mm.
outwardly said.
I love that.
That's just my feeling on it.
I
I
love that.
don't.
But see, this is what I love about music is that, and I think this is a mark of true talented songwriting, is that you can write a song that can have different interpretations for different
Yes.
people.
Yeah.
I love that. I just love hearing other people's perspectives, and I'm always someone that I just am like, "Well, what was he thinking when he wrote that?" And I
What did he
love that
do wrong?
I love that Sammy never likes to tell fans when fans like to ask him, what did you write that song about? Who is that about? Or what were you thinking? And he never likes to do that because then you're going to automatically just glam onto his perspective and not see your own. But that's the beauty of, I think, telling a story. Like you said, these songs tell stories. Um,
A lot of the time
yeah.
they're not your stories to tell.
Yeah, right. Right.
I mean,
Exactly.
sometimes things come to you and you're writing from somebody else's perspective. It's not
Mhm.
necessarily the fact that you've had a rubbish relationship and you're right, don't get me wrong, we've all written those songs. We've
Yeah.
all done that one.
Yeah.
Um, but not always. Sometimes you write it from the perspective of people you see in the street. You might
Mhm.
not know that person, but because, I hate to say this, most songwriters are slightly delusional, and we all live in land of fairies and make believe, and we have a hyperactive, over active imagination, and yeah, we go into storytelling mode. So don't necessarily always believe that what we are saying is a direct response to our personal emotions. We can
Yeah.
link to it, but not they're not necessarily always ours.
Yeah, I like that. I think too many fans, I'm gonna say this from the fans' perspective. I think too many of us assume that
Yeah.
that artists are like, this is their personal diary in every song, and it's like, "Oh my god, who broke his heart? Oh my
Oh,
god, I can't believe it." And it's not, you're right. It's like sometimes they get inspired, you can get inspired through what you read, a movie you saw, other people's experiences, other people's stories that you're
uh,
trying to
definitely.
tell.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it's not just your life.
don't get me wrong, there are artists that literally take their diaries and write a song about it. Adele, for one. My God, that woman's made a living out of it. But there's a reason that she only releases an album about every 7 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Because she needs to fill a diary up before she goes, which was the most traumatic event for
Right.
me to work on? And
Yeah.
here are my songs. Um,
Yeah.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, so you do take from life. You can't help it. It does
Yeah.
happen, but a lot of the time those stories come from elsewhere.
Yeah, someone yeah, just telling a story in general. Like we don't expect that an author that writes a book is always writing a book from their own experience. But I look at songwriters the same way, you know, you're telling a story as a songwriter. Um let's move on to the next single they released because Sorry took off. As I
Yes.
mentioned earlier, they ended up getting a lot of visibility more with international fans. I think Sammy says in the mindset they couldn't believe when their video on YouTube hit 1 million views. And they just were like, "What?" Like they couldn't
It
believe
is.
it.
It is
Yeah,
it is absolute insanity
it's
that.
absolute insanity. So they got picked up for a European tour that fall, and they released their second single on November 1st, 2017 called Like We Used to, or the Korean title Cheondae. I love this song. I think I just love kind of the use when we get into talking about the lyrics, just the repetitive of the Tron and Day, like in the chorus. I just think I just love, you know, how they did that. But tell us a little bit about this song in terms of the writers, the composers, the mixing, and so forth.
So this is like we used to. I think this come out November the
Yep,
1st?
November 1st, 2017.
17. Again, it was the guys that wrote, composed, and arranged it. But as with Sorry, there were other musicians involved with this, which would have been session musicians that I think were there to help support. The recording was done at W Sound. And obviously the mastering then again went to 821. They'd obviously found their comfort point, which was probably more to do with management and their sort of take on where it needed to be done. I'm kind of surprised that they went with this as a second single
Mm. I mean,
because
maybe it was just that they hadn't written like, they
well,
were
there is
probably like,
that.
"Oh shit, pull out of the vault, like, what could we put out there?" I mean, was this a photographer? Though I think fans would would have loved to have had
Well, yeah.
photographer.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, I mean, on X, sorry, I'm still want to say Twitter, but just recently, obviously, there's been the nostalgia thing kicking around.
Yeah.
And everybody's been like, "Can we have photographer? And can we have greed?" And literally everybody's been clamoring for these old songs that they obviously wrote. Everybody writes songs that you wish nobody had heard.
Yeah,
I have a slight feeling a couple of these might be those type of
I think
tracks, and
so.
they'll
I
never see
mean
the light of day.
yeah, they'll never see the light of day, but so maybe Chon and Day is, like, the best they had right then. I don't know, I
Yeah,
like it.
probably. I
I love this song.
it's kind of a sweet it's a sweet song. It doesn't resonate heavily with me.
Ugh, I love it. Maybe it's just, like, right up my alley as a fan, I don't know, it's, like, feel good, you know, kind of a song. To me, again, like, the perspective on the melody, like I said, I noticed that most of these songs on Void start with that simple chord and
Yeah.
then either Woo-sung or Dojun kinda coming in with that first verse, and then the full melody kinda hits you, and I think this song does the same. I like this guitar part that comes in about, like, 3/4 of the way through the song. I feel like
It's beautiful.
that's, like, the
On
best part of the song.
Oh yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. There are don't I mean I say I'm not drastically bothered about this song, but there are things within it I find beautiful and so well done, and the
Yeah.
guitar is one of them. It really is a fantastic piece of work that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean the vocals are lovely and the sentiment's lovely and you can hear the sentiment in what's being sung.
So I think you said this about the simplicity of their earlier music here, and I think this song is a good example of that. There's not a lot of lyrics. It's
Yeah,
repetitive in terms of that Chon and Day being said over and over again, but I don't know, something about it, like, I just personally, like, really enjoy it and like it, and in terms of the English translation, to me, what they're saying is like Cheon and Day means like when it used to be good. like it
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
like kind of this past relationship. You used to be happy, and they're just kind of reminiscing and thinking back to like the good times, I guess.
Yeah. Again, it's that nostalgia thing.
Yeah, it's that nostalgia.
Oh, we need to be careful with this.
I don't know, maybe in their new music you know what I think they always lean back to, and so do their fans, is the Heel era. That
Yes,
album, which I
definitely.
can't wait till we do the deep dive on that
Yeah.
one. I wonder if they'll lean more back into that sound or, just kind of going back to maybe some of the yeah, the way that they wrote the music for Heel.
I find, like we used to, it's one of those songs that I can play in the background
Mm,
and I enjoy.
yeah,
It
I thought you were gonna say you skip it maybe. Do you
No,
ever have
oh
those songs where
god,
you're just like,
no.
"I'm gonna skip over this one."
Well,
That
there's
you know what that is for me, Kelly. What is it for me with their discography? What do I hit skip on? Just wait till we
I've
get
no
to that
I
review.
don't know because I know there's one I always hit skip on as well.
It's California.
Yeah, how dare you?
I can't wait till we talk about Red so we can get into a heated battle. That is my least favorite The Rose song. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, Dojun and Woosung and Hajun and Jaehan. I don't like that song.
I love it. I'm so sorry.
Swimming like a hummingbird? I did fact check
Hummingbird
that.
swim.
I did fact check that. Okay, Woosung, hummingbirds swim. I will get you on that. I thought that was a lie. I was like, "Hummingbirds swim?" No, they don't. They
No,
do, actually, I
they
fact
do.
checked
They
that.
do. I don't know what the grizzly bear's doing, but the hummingbird can swim.
Alright, we'll save that for that
Yeah,
episode.
let's leave that for later. Oh
No, but
god.
do love this song and it's all of its simplicity. So then we get these 2 songs. They go on their European tour at the end of 2017. We're going to stop here for today. Join us for part 2 of Into the Void, where we're going to continue this great conversation with our deep dive into the rest of the songs on the Void album. See you there.